A couple of years ago, I made the decision to immediately cease production on my most popular video series. The thing that had brought my channel to prominence, I cut it overnight, which sounds a bit counterintuitive, but it was one of the best decisions I've ever made in my life, and here's why. So the series I'm referring to was called One Piece 101, a collective of 5 to 10 minute videos on Grand Line Review, designed to give people a heavily abridged experience of a particular character, group, concept, or event. The idea of it was that because One Piece is so extraordinarily long and complicated, this could provide a gateway to people looking to get into the series. Or at the very least provide a quick refresher to those who had read or watched it and simply didn't retain all of the informations. And to be perfectly honest, if it was not for this video series, I would have quit this platform about 5 years ago. In fact, I did quit. After trying and failing to break into the One Piece YouTube space for a few months in 2016, I just gave up. The videos were time consuming to make, and no matter what I tried, nothing seemed to break even 100 views. So I decided to take a step back and just enjoy One Piece in the traditional method that I always had. However, a few months later, I came back to the channel to discover that certain videos had been performing pretty damn amazingly in my absence. And all of them were from the One Piece 101 series. And at this stage, get this, they each had over 1,000 views. That was incredible. And it taught me a very important lesson about focusing on the long term when it comes to YouTube, especially when you're starting out. People have a rough time discovering your videos. However, slowly but surely they begin to trickle into people's feeds, all adding up to a snowball effect, and then one day, bam, you've either stumbled into a very solid hobby or even a career. So that really inspired me to keep making videos, specifically One Piece 101 videos, because I knew that even if they didn't do well straight away, they would keep building in the background. And I think that what really helped me at the time was that no one else was doing anything like it. The One Piece YouTube space was very much in the review and theory zone, with most creators pumping out videos somewhere in the length of 20 to 30 minutes. So even though my 5-minute character summaries were pretty awfully written, recorded, edited, and all of the production things, whatever it was awful. They stood alone though. No one was executing the concept better, so it meant that I got to swim in my own lane. And eventually I based the entire strategy of the channel around this gem of discovery. I came up with several series to replicate the One Piece 101 formula. The most well known of which is probably the Devil Fruit Encyclopedia, where I made it my mission to create a video encyclopedia of every Devil Fruit in the series. And I really liked this idea of creating these massive and highly bingeable playlists. And one huge advantage of it was it made content planning incredibly easy. With the Devil Fruit Encyclopedia, for example, I made one video a week in the order of when the fruits were introduced. At the time, there were just over 100 fruits, so I basically had 2 years of content planned on paper, which sounds great, but that actually became a big problem. In fact, a lot of things became big problems, so many bigs. And after a while, these series that had built the foundation of Grand Line Review were actively threatening to topple the entire channel. And in total, there were five great threats to the channel that I had to act on, or else I would probably not be on the platform today. The first is that, as great as it can be for productivity, locking in your content a month, or dare I say many months in advance, made me quite non-elastic, meaning that I couldn't respond to new trends or developments happening in One Piece. For example, during Whole Cake Island, I couldn't actually talk a whole lot about what was going on in that arc, because I was doing One Piece 101 videos based on characters from Dressrosa. And I couldn't actually make videos about Whole Cake Island characters because every chapter completely changed what we knew about them, so the videos would go out of date incredibly quickly. So it always felt like I was a year or two behind what was actually happening in One Piece, which didn't feel great. That was a problem not just from a YouTubey business perspective, but also from my perspective as a fan. Because there were times when all I wanted to do was talk about something current, like say Luffy versus Katakuri and all of the other crazy crap that was happening. But I couldn't because I was locked into doing a character recap of, say, Dellinger. So even though I had a whole channel dedicated to One Piece, as a fan, I couldn't really share the hype of what was happening outside of chapter reviews. And that constant retrospective focus really started to get to me, and I needed to make a shift, or else I probably would have lost complete passion for making videos. But also, these kind of videos were much more rigidly structured. They were presented as quick fix facts, ways to convey as much information as possible in as efficient of a time frame. So they didn't allow me to inject a lot of personality into them, which a lot of you might have preferred. There were definitely people who preferred the channel when there was less personality, but for me, I just got bored. I got tired of doing nothing but reciting facts, and I wanted a way to lighten things up, which is actually really difficult when presenting facts. Because if you inject too much personality, then that can lead to skewing the information and giving people incorrect details, all because you wanted to make a joke. So I felt really trapped on all fronts. However, that was by far the least important problem that I needed to deal with. The second issue is that while One Piece 101 videos were originally designed to be the ultimate evergreen content, you know, the stuff that just accrues views in the background forever and ever and ever, there came a point where the exact opposite effect started happening. And this is because when you're summarizing and giving facts about an ongoing series, those facts have a tendency to change on a weekly basis. And one day I suddenly realized that like half of my One Piece 101 library was completely out of date. That video of Luffy I made in 2017 was no longer relevant in 2018 because so many new developments had happened. And the same goes for most of the cast of the series because the One Piece world is ever moving and ever changing. So I had a pretty big problem on my hands about what to do, because YouTube doesn't let you add content to existing videos. It lets you take stuff out, but not add. So my only real option to update the video library was to create entirely new videos, which I did. I had a whole series called One Piece 101 2.0. The whole idea was to create updated versions with new information, better writing, better recording, and all that stuff. But then I ran into the issue of, well, now I have two of what is essentially the exact same video on my channel. So what do? Do I just leave them both up and confuse potential viewers? Or do I delete or private the original video? And if it's the second one, then that completely defeats the purpose of what I was trying to achieve. It's not exactly evergreen content if I have to replace those videos on a yearly or even biannual basis. And also it meant that an extensive amount of time and channel space was being taken up by remaking old videos instead of creating something new, which got very boring for me and I imagine very repetitive for those watching. For example, not all of these are still up on the channel, but I have made 4 different One Piece 101 videos for each of the Straw Hats. I took the first couple of batches down because I thought it would be confusing to have 4 of the exact same type of video up. And you know, if I'd kept making them, I think we'd probably be up to One Piece 101 version 7 or 8.0 by now. But the same thing happened with the other series. For example, the Devil Fruit Encyclopedia. Just take the Gomu Gomu no Mi. After the big Wano revelation, I would need to immediately remake that video, which is something I don't really want to do. I want to talk about the new developments, but I don't want to keep consistently recapping everything we knew to get there. So these videos turned out to be significantly less evergreen than you would think. I mean, maybe when One Piece is over, it would be a decent idea to make a series like that again. One final, this is everything we know about X character kind of video. But while it's ongoing, it's just an impossible task. And even when One Piece ends, it's not necessarily advisable because of big career-ending problem number the 3rd, which is... As most of you probably know, Japan and copyright are a little bit of a bad mixture. There's no gray area for fair use in their law. And even if there was, I think it could be argued that One Piece 101 and the Devil Fruit Encyclopedia fall into a bit of a tricky area. Because there are 4 criteria to determine fair use, and we're a bit shaky on 2 of them. One being, is it for fair use or commercial use? And because YouTube is my career, it's commercial. But another of those 4 pillars is, does that work impact the market for the original work? And because One Piece 101 and the Devil Fruit Encyclopedia were basically abridged summaries, you could maybe argue that it acts as a replacement for the original material. I'm not saying I would, but you could. Because I mean, that was kind of the whole point, to give someone a quick fix to then allow them to jump into One Piece. And I'd personally say that having a gateway like that does a lot more good than it does harm. Maybe people will use my series to skip, say, the first 800 chapters of One Piece, but once they become invested fans, they start spending money on the series. They buy merch, film tickets, toothbrushes, games, whatever, and eventually they'll probably end up buying the manga volumes as well, or the anime DVDs, whatever it is. Once they're a fan, they will give you their money. But the fact is that it's just dangerous. Japan has notoriously little chill in this realm. So on top of feeling trapped and just endlessly recreating the same video over and over and over and over and over and over and over again, there was also the fear that making this kind of content would just get me copyright struck straight off the platform. But the 4th factor is much more important. Because as much as I get daily comments asking me where One Piece 101 and Devil Fruit Encyclopedia went, data showed me that those series simply weren't what most people wanted to watch. Yes, it had some big hits, like, you know, doing a Luffy 101, that is guaranteed a ton of views. But there's only a handful of characters that do that. Eventually you get through all the main cast or the secondary cast and you need to start covering the auxiliary characters, who very few people want a whole video on, even if it's only 5 minutes. So outside of the main protagonists and antagonists, One Piece 101 as a series was failing. Very few people wanted to watch videos like Baby 5 Explained or Belmare or Noland, and those characters make up the bulk of that video library. So yeah, they had a handful of big hits, but for the most part, One Piece 101 and Devil Fruit Encyclopedia got to the point where those videos were getting half, sometimes even a third of the views that my other content was receiving. So it became pretty clear what people wanted. And straightforwardly enough, as soon as I canned both series, my channel views doubled in a single month. It went between 20 to 30,000 per video to 50 to 60,000. And I credit credit that all entirely to making what it is you actually wanted to watch. Because in the end, what I want is to engage with you guys. There's this really bizarre perception that catering your content for a wide audience is somehow being less authentic and selling out. But I actually think it's quite selfish of me to expect all of you to just watch whatever I throw at you. Like, this whole YouTube thing isn't just about me, it's about the dynamic that we have. It's about doing what fulfills me whilst also providing value to you guys. So the obvious answer to me is to look at those stats, see how you guys vote with your views, and actually give you more of what you want to watch. But finally, and most importantly, channels need to evolve. I've been making videos non-stop for about 6 years now, and if I had just kept doing the same thing that entire time, not only would I go insane, but I'm pretty sure that my viewers would just get bored. The same thing that worked 6 years ago that you probably remember so fondly and nostalgically probably isn't going to be capable of gripping your attention today. I mean, so much has changed. In fact, YouTube feels like an entirely new platform every 3 months or so to me. If you don't evolve, if you don't keep pursuing new ideas, then you'll stagnate. So as much as people may say, I miss the old days of Grand Line Review, I have serious doubts that those people would still be watching if I'd kept making the same thing over the course of these 6 years. In fact, I imagine that instead they'd be accusing me of recycling content and running out of ideas. I mean, I can't personally think of any creator I was watching 5 years ago who I still watch today, because I've grown and changed and my entertainment requirements are so different now. Even if who I liked back then was still making the same kind of content, I'm not sure I'd be watching because it probably isn't what I'm looking for anymore. But that's why cancelling my 2 breakthrough series was the best decision I have ever made, because it freed me. It allowed me to do more of what I actually wanted to do, and it gave the wider community more of what they wanted to see, which I very much consider a win-win. And just in case you're unconvinced, here is a clip from the old days of Grand Line Review. You tell me if you want this back. As the only ranking Marine officer present at the Battle of Alubana, it fell to Tashiki to arrest Sir Crocodile after his defeat and revoke his warlord status. She would also come across the entirety of the Straw Hat Pirates unconscious in the middle of the street, resting after their hard-fought battle. She reluctantly ordered her subordinates not to arrest the pirates in recognition of what they had done for the nation of Alabasta.